Hey guys, so today we are going to be looking at point of view and reviewing what we worked on last week and practicing how to find point of view. So our objectives for today are: I can decide if the text is first person or third person point of view. I can identify the pronouns used to describe the main character, because if I know who is telling the story, I can understand the mood and the attributes of the characters. So we know that we're going to be successful today when we can identify the pronouns that refer to the main character, and we can decide if it is first person or third person point of view, and we can tell or write who is telling the story, so identifying the narrator. So yesterday we read about Scaredy Squirrel, and you were supposed to finish reading the last couple pages in Scaredy Squirrel. Before I start, I want to remind you that point of view is who is telling the story. So we're looking for either first person or third person. If it's first person, the narrator is going to be part of the story, and you might hear pronouns like I, me, my, we. Those are all words that help me to know that the person is in the story. If it is third person, the narrator is outside the story. So they are talking about the people in the story. So those pronouns would be she, he, her, him, they. All of those are pronouns that would help me to know that it is third person, because the narrator is not a part of the story. So I'm going to reread this page and think about who is telling this story. What is the point of view? He'd rather stay in his safe and familiar tree than risk venturing out into the unknown. The unknown can be a scary place for a squirrel. So I'm thinking to myself, how do I find point of view? Well, I'm going to look for those pronouns. And in this short text, I can see he'd and I can see his. So I know that they are referring to Scaredy Squirrel, and Scaredy Squirrel is not telling me how he feels, but somebody outside this story is telling me how Scaredy Squirrel feels. So this story is told in third person point of view. I think the narrator is outside the story and they are the ones telling it. Let's practice with another one. So the text says, she locked Rapunzel inside a tall tower. Years later, a prince heard music coming from the tower. He looked for a door, but there was none. So he hid and waited. The witch came. She called for Rapunzel to let her hair down. Rapunzel's long hair draped from the tower window. The witch climbed up her hair. So as I begin to identify who is telling the story, or whose point of view is it, I need to look for the pronouns in the text. So one thing that I can see is she locked Rapunzel inside the tower. So the she is referring to the witch. And then he looked for a door. This is referring to the prince. He hid and waited. That's the prince. She called for Rapunzel to let down her hair. Her is another one that's referring to the prince. And then the witch climbed up her hair, referring to Rapunzel's hair. So I have a lot of he and she, or her, and I have one she. Because I have all of those pronouns, I know that this is going to be third person point of view. And since it is third person point of view, that means that a narrator outside the story is telling the story. Okay, let's try another one. But if my mom is such a nice woman, why is she trying to ruin my life? Here are 5 ways that my mom is trying to ruin my life. So I'm seeing a couple things in here. I see my again. My mom is ruining my life. So I think those pronouns for my is going to help me to know which point of view to pick. I will say that there is one thing in here that we have to be careful. It says, why is she trying to ruin my life? So the girl is saying this about her mom, so she says she. So as I'm looking at this and I found my pronouns, I can see the pronoun my multiple times, and I know that it is first person because of the word my, and that means a character inside the story is telling the story. So it looks like the little girl is telling the story because her mom is trying to ruin her life. All right. Dr. LaRue, October 1st. How could you do this to me? This is a prison, not a school. You should see the other dogs. They are bad dogs. Mrs. LaRue, I do not fit in. Even the journey here was a horror. I am very unhappy and may need something to chew on when I get home. Please come right away. So I'm trying to think to myself, who is telling this story? I need to look for the pronouns. And I see this one, you. How could you do this to me? So me tells me that it's the person inside the story telling it. They're talking about you should see the other dogs. He said, Mrs. LaRue, I do not fit in. I am very unhappy. I need something to chew on when I get home. So with all of those pronouns, you, me, and I know that this is first person point of view. Since it's first person point of view, that means a character inside the story, in this case, Ike, is telling the story. All right, let's practice with one more. One hot day, a fox walked along a path. He noticed a bunch of grapes growing on a tall vine. So I'm trying to figure out who's telling the story, and I need to look at the pronouns. The only pronoun that I see is he. So this is the only one that I can see. And because I'm finding out what he did, that means it is third person point of view. And since it's third person point of view, that means that a character outside the story is telling the story, or the narrator. All right, for your you are going to answer the question, who is telling the story? You're going to go through each of those steps. So you, in your text box, are going to write each of these things in there. I see the pronouns, and then tell me the pronouns you'd see here. I think this is first person or third person. So I think this person is telling the story. This is in your Canvas, so when you go to it, make sure you hit submit, and then it'll open up your screen. All right, the second activity that you're going to do is to start working on our writing notebook. Now, this is something that's new to me, and I'm hoping that this will be something that we can use to go through our different writing genres. So when you get this, it's going to be on a Google Slides. You are going to be able to work on this and add new pages as we go along and we work through each of the types of writing. So on the front cover, you will want to type in your name right here. And then this is for our writing class. And we're going to be focusing on a narrative. So a narrative writing tells a story. It can be real or make-believe. It has a beginning, middle, and end. narrative writing has characters, narrative writing has a setting, and narrative writing has sequential order, meaning things happen in an order. So, we are going to be doing a narrative writing about summer and the things that you did over summer. Before we begin, we need to come up with some ideas. So on this page, you are going to type in some words or phrases that remind you of summer. And this is just going to be a list of summer words, so things that go with summer. So maybe the pool, the beach, books for me because I like to read in the summer. Lemonade, strawberries reminds me of summer. All of these things are just words and that remind me of summer. Then you are going to write a short little thing, nothing too big. It says, in summer, and you're just going to finish writing this. So I'm going to give an example and show you what I would write. So I have to be out of my present mode. And I'm going to delete this and I'm going to say, in summer, I watched my baby nephew, Ezra, while his mom and dad went to work. My kids and I watched him every day. It was fun and exciting to see him grow and learn new things. When we started watching him, he was only 2 months old, and when we stopped watching him, he was 6 months old. Okay, so I just wrote something really short. This isn't my whole story. This is just some ideas that in the summer, like some things that I do. For this summer, watching Ezra was my thing that I wanted to work on. Today, you guys are just going to work on these 2 slides. You are going to make up your word bank, your list of words, and you're going to write something here about in summer and then telling me what you did in summer. Now, there are more pages in our reader or writing notebook, but I only want you to do those 2 pages. So you are only working on page 3 and page 4. And then that's all I'm going to have you do. Since you are writing, I'm not going to give you a third activity other than if you did not finish your Spelling City, you need to work on Spelling City. I only had one person that actually completed all of their Spelling City activities, and I had quite a few people that didn't do any of the Spelling City activities. So after you finish this, log into Spelling City and get working on those spelling words.